Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm pretty sure I don't need to start by saying let's wake up, because we were all woken up before with the previous session. And with Shankar coming in over here, I think I have to start by saying whether it is melodies or menus, the common theme is certainly experience. And that's basically what we are likely to discuss today. In modern retailing, we call it customer experience, and that's what defines retail for us. I think I'll start by saying that if you look at the way retail is kind of changing, most of the decisions which a consumer is taking is much before they are entering a physical store or even going to a website or into an app. That experience is what is making the differentiation today. And I would want to start by asking the same question, right? So how much is content becoming important, and how is it driving change for all of you guys? We can start with you, and I would also want a quick round of introductions, and then we can get started with.
Sure. So guys, my name is Abhishek. I essentially lead marketing for Swiggy Instamart, the quick commerce platform, and a bunch of private brands that we've launched. Hopefully, you all have tried a few of those. Your question was how important is intent, right? Look, I think we live in a very, very cluttered world today. To get through to a consumer at the right time, at a time when he's open to listening to you, is the hardest part for a marketer to crack, right? So if you have intent, even a fraction of it, I think you've sort of won the game. I think it's very, very important. And I operate in a very, very ubiquitous category, right? At the end of the day, you could come out and say, hey, I want to sell you a product, or I want to deliver a product to you in 10 minutes. And all our competitors are going to be like, hey, we'll do it in 10 minutes as well, right? You'll say, I'll do 9,000 products. They'll say, we'll do 10,000 products, right? So what really crafts intent, right? At some level, the play of brand, the play of consistency, operational rigor, is what drives intent, in my opinion. So while intent is a very, very, very easy word, I think what the ingredients to sort of build up to that intent is a lot of work.
And if you can just continue with your thought and also drive some transformation around content also being used, and how is that changing the way consumers are thinking, and does it impact your business?
So content is sort of the biggest play, right? So we look at content very, very differently. Now, if it's content where it comes to our social media, right? We took this very bold call like a couple of years back saying, and this came from some amount of consumer insights and learning. When consumers see a great ad, they'll be like, hey, that's a great ad. It's a very smart ad, makes a lot of sense. But if a consumer looks at a piece of content and says, hey, this happened to me last week, right? We felt like there was a lot more engagement. It was a lot more real. There was a lot more brand love that sort of came with it. So today we look at content with the objective of building community, and not always, yeah, sure, there are ads, but a large part of our effort, at least on social media today, is on driving content to engage with people purely. We don't say that, hey, I put this piece of content, I want to see how many products have I sold or how much of a traffic spike I got on my platform because of that. It's purely said, hey, I put a piece of content, it traveled to X million, Y million people in a span of Z hours, and it got me so much of engagement, and that's a success metric. Purely as simple as that. And I'm happy to talk about this at length, right? And what sort of comes out of it, and what's the goodness of it. But yeah, that's how we look at content.
Dipti, what about you?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with the point. And so since I'll just introduce myself. So I'm Dipti, I'm the founder and CEO of Attire. We're a women's clothing brand, and we sell smart casuals, business casuals, formals. So yeah, content plays a very important role, and especially, and I think I really liked your point where you said that relatability factor. That matters a lot. A lot of our content is also focused on the educational part of it, like educating the customer about the fits, about the fabrics. So this creates a lot of it helps the customer not only build trust, like she builds trust, she understands, okay, these guys, this is what they're selling and this is how a particular thing will fit. So that credibility is built for a brand in terms of content whenever we are trying to educate the customer. And so people are much more aware now about, and plus see our customer, it really depends. So our customer, she's on an average 30 plus, a woman in her 30s, 40s, her body is changing a lot. She's a little more body conscious. So understanding, being, a little more empathetic about it and giving her that insight that, okay, something like this will probably look in a particular way on you, or it'll fit you in a certain way, or this fabric is, even though it is polyester, because we do a lot of anti-wrinkle, so we have to do polyester as well. So, giving them, first of all, transparency and education. That is something that really helps our customer, because we are also a little bit on the premium, mass premium. So if she's paying 2,500, 3,000 rupees for something, so we want to make sure that there is, like, she knows what she's getting. And that intent, that again, then you become, when they see your content, or when they see this is what, okay, this is what it's about, this is what, we're talking about the fabrics, about, so that, they say the ICS, the initial consideration set, you are on her mind. So next, when she wants to, that pre-purchase journey, like you mentioned, that's always, like, it starts at the time of her consuming that content itself. So we'll have some mind space with her that, okay, these guys know they're talking about fabric GSMs also. So they know what they're talking about. So yeah, I think content helps us also in a very big way. Yeah.
Vivek, quick round of introduction and similar thoughts, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vivek Sandhwar. I work for Being Human Clothing. 25, 26 years, sold clothes for a living, done various things, multiple brands. The word content really is something that we've started speaking about in the last 5 years. Yeah. I started learning business in the old school world. And if I were to just sort of look back at 25 years, content, the way it is spoken about today, is a very, very high frequency advertising connect with the consumer, right? Now, when I look at content, we see it in two parts. First part is what is gonna build a stronger emotional bond with the consumer. It need not be, the other functionality is about connecting with the consumer's heart. I mean, we deal in a space where, consumers don't need the next shirt, they don't need another denim, definitely not branded necessarily, right? So why should you consider me is the first part, and that's the emotional bit of the content, and that's something that is not as sporadic. It's a little more planned. There is curation in terms of time, what all one is going to talk about, and then who am I going to serve this to, right? So one aspect of content is what I'm creating, but one thing that could make sense to me may not make sense to Taarak, right? And what could make sense to, so we are in a very diverse society. We spoke about the complexity. We spoke about the fact that there's clutter. Now, I'm not interested in bombarding everything to everyone, right? So one is the targeting. Second is functionality. That is the content that drives business, right? Now, why should you buy my Oxford shirt versus someone else? I mean, we are a conscious fashion brand. An Oxford shirt is an Oxford shirt is an Oxford shirt, right? And everybody sells at different price points. The reason why somebody would buy my Oxford is because when they walk into a store or they see a piece of content that is around the table, they figure that there is something which is different about this Oxford, and it is not really very, very apparent there. It is right in the roots. I mean, we work very, very closely with Fairtrade. A serious part of our fabrics and yarns is repurposed or giving back to the planet, right? Or giving back to the community that produces it. So we work very closely with Fairtrade. So when you scan a QR code, you see a video of a farmer who said that I have grown the cotton that's gone in your shirt, and I have been paid a higher price for the same yield that would have otherwise gone through a regular supply chain that is something that, while it does functional work, it also creates a very, very strong emotional bond with the consumer. So we approach content in that way. And yes, there are functional contents. There are things that one does which goes really large scale. Especially in our case, we have seen 100 million views on contents very easily. Most of them organic. But that is another aspect that comes in, and that's an advantage for us as a brand, because of the person who owns the brand and has created the brand. Salman has crazy following, right? So if I want to push a new idea to the consumer and Salman says it, it has the credibility. So that's another aspect, right? In my case, it is the curator or the creator of the brand, but in anybody else's context, it could be that one big hook that you have. There are content that needs to be amplified. There are content that needs to be targeted and sharpened. So that's how we've approached it. Yep.
Taarak, your thoughts? Quick introduction.
So good evening, everybody. My name is Taarak Bhattacharya. I run a very happy brand called Mad Over Donuts. We run around 200 point of sales, which are doing happy sales these days. And talking about content, I think, so anything content, what we see today, I always tell them this is also our storefront today, apart from the physical stores. Because today, every consumer, a new one especially, actually sees you first on the content page, in the Instagram page, or in any social media, and then makes an opinion to whether to visit you or not. Then obviously after they come back to the store, etc., we treat them with great donuts, and that's how a community building happens. I think community relevance is very key on building a brand today. I think social is a great help in that. And thereby, obviously, the storefront. So I always feel that content is our another storefront today. So that's how I look at it.
So I used to watch this movie called Fast and Furious, and then I try to resonate this movie with a brand. The person sitting on my right comes to my notice, and Swiggy is somebody which want to do everything in about less than 10 minutes, moving to, in that 8 to 12 minute category. So what I would really want to know is, other than speed, what else is defining experience for a consumer?
So I think this is a question that we get asked a lot, right? I think quick commerce has evolved a lot in the last 3 years. For those of you all who might not know, actually Swiggy Instamart started quick commerce, was the first quick commerce player, started in the thick of COVID with a 45-minute delivery promise, right? And then the entire industry, and there were new players coming in, and then there was some amount of disruption, and then the entire industry sort of moved into this whole 10-minute delivery space. Now, in the first 2 years of our existence, it helped us penetrate a lot of cities, right? It gave us an entry point. Speed became an entry point. Today, people don't buy from our platform because it was once convenient. People come to us. So speed has sort of become like table stakes. It's a market entry. It's a market entry point of view, but it's not something that's a CX differentiator, right? I think something that we've realized over the course of the years, and sometimes through the hard way, is predictability is greater than novelty, right? Which is to say that if you're consistently able at scale to give the same experience to the consumers in a predictable way, then that becomes the primary moat from a service standpoint, which is very hard to do, right? You're talking about, for example, you're talking about, say, milk being delivered fresh to probably about 2,000 dark stores across the country every single morning, and then being delivered to the customer in about 10 minutes every single time, right? And trying to do that while solving availability. So that means that every time you log on to the app, you should see milk at the price point that you ideally wanted. You need to ensure that it's fresh and not spoiled, and you need to ensure that the delivery logistics works seamlessly. So there's an immense amount of back-end logistical infrastructure that goes into every order, and intelligence also. So the way I would sum it up is a 10-minute wrong delivery with the wrong products erodes a lot more trust than a 15-minute delivery with the right products, right? So I think that's how I'll probably sum it up. But some of the other factors play a lot more pivotal of a role in terms of the experience.
Got it. And Dipti, to you, I mean, I was looking at your website, and one thing which clearly comes out is that you spend a lot of time on educating people first, and then glamorize it. Okay, so how does that influence a customer's buying decision before they enter the store?
Right. So yeah, since we are, like I mentioned, our customer base is such, and so education helps in a big way, because she needs to understand. So of course, we talk about different Indian body types, the kind of fabrics that we use. So once we educate her, she already knows. One is, like, there are a couple of advantages to it. One is that it attracts a very intentional buyer. Like, when she's coming into us, she knows what she wants. It's mostly for, she'll look at products for longevity. She'll look at repeat wear. We are not going to attract every impulse buyer. That's not our intention, and that's not our motive, and that's not what we want. A customer who will come to us and who will buy for us for clothing that lasts across trends as well. That's how we are trying to build the brand as well. So that is one big advantage. Secondly, the post-purchase experience is also better. Both online and offline, especially online, because by now she knows what she's going to buy. She knows why she's buying it. So that return rate also reduces, because it's very predictable. Again, she knows where she's going to use it or how she's going to put it to use. So she comes with that intent. And the third point I would say is, again, the trust also builds with the customer when you educate the customer and you're transparent with the customer.
Got it. All right. And Vivek, to you, I mean, your brand does not need a recognition in terms of who's running it, okay? But what's important for me to understand is, how does the brand purpose shape the customer's expectations?
Very important, actually, question, because the first thing people think about being human, they think Salman ka brand, right? But the fact is, the brand, the foundation of the brand was laid on human values, which is love, care, share, hope, help, and joy. It was not laid on the Bollywood glam, right? It was started with a purpose to serve the society. Over years, this entire piece has kind of stemmed out into multiple things that we do. So other than what Salman does through the foundation, the brand is very, very razor-sharp focused on creating conscious fashion. We don't want to sell products just because you're feeling guilty and you want to sort of do something good. We want to sell products with great fashion first. And the added advantage is the fact that this is either fair trade cotton or mechanically recycled cotton or recycled PET in our products, regenerative cotton, recycled linen. All our packaging is 100% recycled poly or carry bags. Of being human, they look brown. There's a certain smell to that, and that's the smell of 100% recycled pulp. That's how sustainability, that's how conscious smells, really, right? So that's gone in most of the things that you do. And a lot of that is around you on the tables. What's very interesting, on every tent card that you see around your table is there are 6 codes of sign languages. Our store managers know sign language. And they do not know sign languages just because somebody who cannot speak or hear walks into our store. Also because most of our stores, practically all of our stores, has at least one person who cannot speak the way we do, cannot hear the way we do. And they're exceptionally good salespeople. I mean, I've had instances where consumers have gone back just because it was a weekday off of that special person, right? And that is how consumers sees the purpose behind the brand. It's a long drawn road, if you ask me very frankly. It is not something which is going to happen in one day. It'll have to be, so like you said, consistent every single time, right product in 10 minutes. I have to be consistent every single time across the 750, 800 points of sale where I sell stores, large format stores, MBOs. marketplaces, my own brand.com, I have to be consistent about these values every single time. We have, in fact, recently extended the inclusion to a place where a lot of our products are unisex. We are building collabs which is attracting youth, but not just the popular collabs that one knows. We are also building collabs with other NGOs that kind of work for street hurt animals. We are building collabs with people who clean beaches. So a lot of that work, and it's a long-run action for us, but we see it consistently sort of reflecting in what consumer thinks of us, what consumer speaks to us, and the way they're consuming the products that is more and more conscious from our stores and everywhere else. Yeah.
Got it. And Taarak, for a brand like yours, which is a lot to do with impulse, a lot to do with habits, a lot to do with building communities, the way Abhishek was referring to. How do you ensure that there is continuity for a consumer to come in, and how do you differentiate experience for them?
So to start with, I think impulse happens just once. Then second is actually repeat purchase happens when the consumer has gone through your purchase and have felt nice about it. Then obviously community building happens. Relevant community building also gets you great UGC content. That's how I think repeat purchase happens. And it continues. I think UGC today gets huge credibility even against your message of the brand also sometimes. And that gets you a huge repeat purchase. I think beyond the product, service, imagery, or the hygiene at the store, etc., is also what you're giving it to the consumer. Consumer should feel at home, literally. So sometimes we even ask the consumer, what flavor festival do you want us to do? For example, somebody said, just do a caramel festival. Kunafa was in trend in the last 6-7 months. Korean donuts was in trends. So we did that. So I think people felt wanted. People felt this is their own brand. And that's how I think the repeat purchase happens. I think it's all the time you keep on giving the consumer what they want. I think definitely you're in the reason.
And I've not purposely touched technology as a part of a conversation, but I really want to go there because I think what we are also trying to do is create a lot of inputs in terms of gathering information. Okay, and that to me is what will drive growth for all of us. So I just want to understand from each one of you, what does that data mean to you, and what exactly are you trying to do with it? So AI is coming up in a big shape and form, and I was doing a presentation yesterday wherein I said keep it simple, okay? Because end of the day, you cannot overcomplicate, over-engineer, and expect things to come out, and that's where the anticipation where it started from, wherein got AI coming in and we'll have 200% growth in our revenues, didn't happen. What did happen is that people have now started aligning to the fact that AI will help you more towards doing productivity, manage people, look at efficiency, and then you grow the revenue. I'll be very interested to know that with the kind of data which is available with all of you guys, how are you using that more from a technology hat, and how is that supporting you in your growth? Any of you guys can go ahead.
Okay. So I think being a marketplace and a platform where people come and transact every single day, there are millions and millions of transactions happening every day. You have a very rich source of data. You have a lot of understanding today on how India shops, right? And that also comes with a lot of responsibility, right? So we today know who is potentially going to or has become recently a father or a mother because of the purchase pattern suddenly starts having diapers in the orders, which historically never was. So we start asking ourselves, how can we make life a little bit easier? So often there are times when we send in something extra with those orders to, help with their sleepless nights, for example. So data is a big part of what we do. And I think one of the biggest examples can also be something called as null searches. Now, I think all of y'all who use quick commerce over here today would have gone on the platform at some point, especially if y'all were early adopters, and searched for something and not found it. Now, this is something that we obsess over. We look at this data day in and day out. and we actually identify what are people searching for and what are they not getting, and how can we, that's actually becomes the signal for us to increase the width of our assortment. So, if people are looking for a particular size of products like 500 liters instead of a liter, then that's a signal to us to store the product. The second way we also use data in a very interesting, and I can go on and on, but I'm just giving some high level use cases, is some of these insights are also relevant to build marketing campaigns around, right? So we launched a campaign about a year back, which had a user typing chawal and chawla, right? They did that typo error. They typed chawla instead of chawal, and the ad has a very funny take. It actually came from data. We see day in and day out that people type all kinds of typos happen on the platform, right? So it's very useful if you're able to pay attention to it. So I think it's very interesting. That's it.
Yeah. And you guys, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so while there's a lot of work that happens digitally, and Abhishek has spoken about it, we do some of that, not as much as you do. But what we've been able to do in past couple of years is we've been able to sort of solve for one big problem for fashion. So bestseller of a store is worst seller of another. The best sellers are always out of stock, cut sizes. What the consumer likes in a certain geography is sold out and not replenished. So these are 2-3 things that keep happening. You get to a store, the store manager will tell you, what I am selling, I don't have. So while all of that happening is a very, very bad consumer experience at the store, because consumer is disappointed with you, and you disappoint the guy maybe twice, third time around, you may not get a chance again. We've been able to build an entire engine, of course, a third-party sourced engine, which is using machine learning to be able to help me consolidate inventory, do inter-store transfers, to be able to build the right level of base stock at a store level, depending upon how long it takes for me to deliver, what is the run rate of a product. Beyond the point, what happens is everything is not replenishable, right? We are in business of fashion. You have to replace. It is actually basis the product attributes that's available in my system is able to suggest replacement. So, it is getting to a place where I will be able to see this entire system mature to a place where before I get into buying, I know what are the data-led nuances of the store. And then, of course, there's CRM and so on and so forth. But this is one use case that we have seen help us reduce our base stock, which means working capital is a big problem for retailers. And increase sell-throughs.
Quick inputs from you guys. You want to say something?
So for us, I think AI talks a lot about trends, what is happening in the market in terms of food, etc. Food is a maximum medium where everybody talks about season. And for us, I think I always say that loyalty comes in through relevance today, what consumer wants, as I just said before also. So I always think that relevance gets you a lot of repeat customers, but I think food is all about emotion. Emotion gets you advocacy, and advocacy is the biggest thing, I think, in food, and it can get you a community building medium. So I think it's a both machine learning, AI, put together our heart and soul into the food, gets you those lot of repeat customers.
Got it. So I would just need a 1-minute answer on my next question, and then we'll make it open. I personally feel that the marketing folks, and we've got 2 marketing folks, and we've got 2 owners, okay? So marketing folks are smarter than the product. Okay, and my question is, how do you ensure that the promise to the customer is retained? Because what you're trying to show may not be actually there. Because you've come out with a great idea, great thought of presenting a product, but the product is not there. The marketing's actually crossed that. So how do you wear that hat and ensure that the promise to the customer is retained about the product? Okay, quick 1 minute each, please.
So for us, I think we say bite into happiness. That is why I said we do 200 bite into happiness stores. So our ethos is very clear, that every bite which you take gets you that happiness, whether you're sad, whether you're happy, whether you got a promotion, whether you have not got a promotion, for example. So that our ethos, and we stick to that.
Okay. Vivek?
For us, life is quite simple. Because our product gets decided 6 months before the marketing really happens, right? So, however, one simple ground rule, with a consumer, you can underpromise and overdeliver, but you can never overpromise and underdeliver. And in our category, one bad experience creates to a lot of negative conversation around the brand, and one angry customer will take away 20 of the guys who would have otherwise considered you and liked you. So the way the supply chain is, for us as a category, for fashion typically, it's very tough to sort of exceed the product, because at the end of the day, in our segment, the brand is created in the product.
Sure. Dipti.
I think good marketing and a subpar product will get you the first sale, but not the consecutive sales. But a great product will keep getting you sales. That's how I would like to conclude.
I think I completely agree. I was just going to echo the same thought, right? I think it gets you, marketing promises will get you your first order. After that, it's how you live up to the experiences and those promises consistently over a period of time that determines whether you can live up to those promises. For us, internally, from an internal standpoint, we are very clear about tracking these metrics on, it not just being lip service. We today have an understanding on what percentage of our orders across cities are delivered in 10 minutes and over 10 minutes. There's an NPS score that gets tracked in terms of customer satisfaction. We look at data in terms of how quickly were we able to see. We are in a field where there are a lot of customer issues. You can't mince your words about that. There, because you're in such a high velocity operational business, there are customer issues. It's about how quickly you resolve them and how do you resolve them satisfactorily or not, right? So we track metrics internally to ensure that business leaders across the board are following up.
So I think we'll have to finish this off. There are a lot more questions, but I think we don't have time enough. The important thing over here is to understand that there is a way in which we are trying to showcase our product to the consumers. The consumers are very smart. They know what to buy, how to buy, when to buy. And therefore, content is also becoming the next king. Okay, it's the next economy. So we need to be very mindful that we are positioning content in the right shape and form, and also ensure that we are being true to the product and the brand. With that, I think we'll finish the session. I don't know whether we have got time to take up a question. We don't. All right, so we are available. Anything which we want to discuss will be available outside. Thank you.